timelines are, what the strike vote actually is and what it means, and how soon might the timelines be upon us. And thanks so much for joining us, Sean, and thanks for taking on this fight. Over to you.
Thanks, Pam. Shivers, 2017. Anybody that was teaching in the system at that time remembers where they were with a forced offer rejection of 86%. And certainly my coming out party and getting more involved in my local at that time. Hi, everyone. My name's Sean. I teach mental health and addiction worker at Canadore College in North Bay since 2014. And actually, a year ago, tomorrow, I was elected to our central bargaining team for this round of negotiations. Thanks, Pam, for the invitation to provide a bargaining update from CAD A. We represent 15,000 teachers, librarians, and counselors from Ontario's 24 colleges. I appreciate your wise words earlier in the evening. Unity and solidarity is indeed on our side, and solidarity and organizing is the best way to fight, the only way I know how to fight. And I just want to give a shout out to the other organizers on the call. I certainly appreciate all the work that you do, often behind the scenes, often long hours, often under-recognized, but you are essential and I see you, so solidarity. And when we do get a win, I think it's important that we all kind of take a moment to participate in that win together. So this was certainly a win for the workers of CAD A on Friday last week. Last Friday, members delivered historic best in a generation turnout for a strike mandate vote of 76.1% and a mandate of 79%, which is supermajority territory. That means over 11,000 members voted and over 9,000 members authorized strike action if necessary. So that sends about the strongest message possible to our counterparts at the bargaining table, the College Employer Council and the colleges, that they need to drop their concessions from the table and bargain workers' demands that we tabled when bargaining began back in July. The main issues at this time are workload, wages, and precarity. On workload, all the faculty proposals are based on neutral recommendations from something called the Workload Task Force Report. And this was a report mandated by arbitrator Kaplan at the end of last round to inform bargaining now. It was the largest study of post-secondary workload in the world. Nearly 5,000 members from our division participated. And workload calculations in the system haven't been updated since 1985, and they don't reflect the current reality of delivering education in 2024. On wages, the employers offered real-time cuts that fall well short of inflation, short of annual rent increases this year. George Brown's building housing for staff there. 2/3 of homeowners in the division will renew at higher interest rates during the lifetime of this contract. And the average price of groceries for a family of four, as I'm sure everybody's aware, is up $700 this year. And on precarity, this is probably the most unrecognized story about our division is nearly 3/4 of those teaching in Ontario colleges are non-full-time, and they do well over half the teaching. Faculty proposals increase employment stability, which we know is good for students' learning conditions in the classroom. And as I mentioned earlier, after months of delay, the employer came out the gate with no less than 30 concessions, including some pretty serious two-tiering and new what they're calling modes of delivery definitions, which would really narrow the definition of what teaching entails and cause a bunch of work to become hidden and unrecognized and therefore not compensated. So in the face of a arbitrated workload task force report, the employers come out with recommendations that'll actually make workload worse. So with over $1 billion in accumulated surplus in the college system last year alone, there's enough money to invest responsibly in our public colleges. And while navigating any uncertainty ahead, we're asking for material improvements to wages and working conditions and greater stability for the bulk of the workforce who are the most precarious among us. Better stability is good for student learning, as I mentioned, and it's also really good for the communities we all live and serve in. And as far as timelines go, we're in conciliation now with our next scheduled date on October 28th. No escalation can take place by either side until a no board report is called, and that has not been called yet. And after a no board report, there's a 15-day cooling off period under the CCBA. We don't want to strike. We want to bargain. We've been wanting to bargain for a long time. This employer is notorious for not bargaining. We're focused on getting a good deal done at the table that doesn't sacrifice hard-fought rights and which thoughtfully integrates the workers' proposals into contract language. We encourage the employer to listen to the workers' mandate. That means dropping their concessions and bargaining fairly. OPSEU doesn't bargain concession language. I don't bargain concession language. Those rights aren't ours to give away. They were bargained fairly in the past and they belong to future workers. Our job's to preserve what we have and make gains where we can. And I'm sure the employer isn't happy with the outcome of the strike mandate. But that doesn't mean that they should ignore their duty to bargain with members who have clearly chosen to stand together. Thanks for the opportunity to come chat. And if anybody ever wants to talk organizing, let's do it.
John, that was fantastic.